actually, the time I did that, the first time that you just saw, I went back there and went, what have I done? What came over me? Who am I?
For 3 decades, Forrest Gump has been more than just a movie. It's a cultural touchstone, a classic that captured millions of hearts and snagged a stunning 6 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. Released in the summer of 1994, it became a box office juggernaut, beating out titans like Pulp Fiction and The Shawshank Redemption, to become the highest-grossing film of the year in the United States, second worldwide only to Disney's The Lion King. Its iconic lines, "Run, Forrest, run," and "Life is like a box of chocolates," are permanently etched into our collective memory. The image of a simple man on a park bench patiently sharing his extraordinary life story is one of the most enduring in cinematic history. The film's success was monumental. It transformed a quirky story about a man with a low IQ drifting through American history into a profound statement on love, destiny, and innocence. Tom Hanks's portrayal of Forrest won him his 2nd consecutive Oscar for Best Actor, while Sally Field's performance as his fiercely devoted mother, Mrs. Gump, gave the story its unshakable emotional anchor. She was the heart of the film, the voice of unconditional love who taught Forrest and all of us that stupid is as stupid does. But what if the story behind that celebrated performance was far more complicated than anyone knew? For years, while the world celebrated Forrest Gump, Sally Field remained relatively quiet about her experience. But looking back, especially through her candid memoir and interviews, she has opened up about the behind-the-scenes tension, the private anxieties she held, and the shocking reason she believed this cinematic masterpiece might have been a catastrophic flop. This is the story of what was really happening when the cameras weren't rolling. A story of artistic friction, personal struggle, and a revelation that will change the way you see Forrest Gump forever. Forrest Gump is one of the most beloved films of all time, and Sally Field's portrayal of Mama Gump is legendary. But what most people don't know is that behind that iconic performance was a cloud of doubt and professional anxiety. Over the years, Sally Field has opened up about the on-set challenges and why she once worried this cinematic masterpiece was destined to fail. To truly grasp the weight of what Sally Field has shared, we have to go back to 1994. It was a landmark year for cinema. Visionary directors were pushing boundaries and the competition was fierce. Quentin Tarantino's game-changing Pulp Fiction and the beloved drama The Shawshank Redemption were both in the ring for the top prizes. Against these titans, a movie about a man from Alabama who compares life to a box of chocolates seemed like a sentimental long shot. Yet, Forrest Gump didn't just compete, it dominated. It raked in over $678 million worldwide and became a full-blown cultural event. The film tapped into something deep in the American psyche. The 90s were a time of relative peace and prosperity, a moment when the nation felt comfortable, enough to look back at the turbulent decades before, the Civil Rights Movement, the Vietnam War, and Watergate. Forrest Gump offered a tour through this history, but from a perspective of innocence that allowed audiences from all walks of life to connect with it. At the center of it all was Tom Hanks, an actor at the absolute peak of his powers. Coming off an Oscar win for Philadelphia, he was one of the most trusted stars in Hollywood. His performance as Forrest was a masterclass in vulnerability, but every hero needs a source of strength, and for Forrest, that was his mother. Sally Field came to the project as Hollywood royalty, a 2-time Academy Award winner for Norma Ray and Places in the Heart. Having successfully transitioned from TV roles like Gidget and The Flying Nun to become one of her generation's most respected dramatic actresses, bringing her on board gave the film instant prestige. As Mrs. Gump, she was the film's moral compass, a woman of unshakable conviction. Her performance was praised for its warmth and strength, providing a powerful emotional presence. To the world, it looked like another seamless, masterful performance. But behind the scenes, a different story was taking shape. From the very beginning, the Forrest Gump was a gamble. The script, adapted by Eric Roth from a much darker and more satirical novel, was unlike anything Hollywood had seen before. Its quirky, sentimental tone was hard to pin down. Was it a comedy? A drama? A fantasy? Even studio executives were reportedly baffled. This uncertainty was felt by the cast, including Sally Field. She has since been candid about her initial hesitation, admitting, "You never know if a project is going to connect with audiences." She described making the film as being like Mrs. Gump's famous line, "It truly was a box of chocolates, and no one knew what they were going to get." While Field was drawn to the story's human element, she harbored serious doubts about whether its unusual premise would find an audience. The production's financial troubles only amplified this risk. The initial $55 million budget was slashed by $10 million by Paramount Studios, who felt the film was getting too expensive. The story goes that some of the most pivotal sequences, like Forrest's time in Vietnam, were on the chopping block. Director Robert Zemeckis and Tom Hanks believed in the project so fiercely that they reportedly paid for certain scenes out of their own pockets. The iconic cross-country run, one of the film's most memorable moments, was only shot because Hanks and Zemeckis agreed to split the cost. A huge financial gamble on a film the studio was losing faith in. It was in this atmosphere of high-stakes uncertainty that Field had to build her performance. She had to find the truth in a character who was the emotional bedrock of a film that felt like it was being built on shaky ground. For an actress known for her deep emotional investment, the unpredictable nature of the production was a huge challenge. She was committed to the role, but she couldn't shake the feeling that this sprawling, unconventional epic might never come together. One of the most jarring aspects of Forrest Gump was the casting of Sally Field as Tom Hanks's mother. When production began, Field was 46 years old, just 10 years older than the 37-year-old Hanks. It's a piece of movie trivia that's become a classic example of Hollywood's ageism, where actresses in their 40s are often pushed into maternal roles while their male peers continue as romantic leads. Just 6 years earlier in the 1988 film Punchline, Field and Hanks had played colleagues with romantic tension. Now, she was his mom. For Field, this wasn't just a quirky fact. She later admitted it was emotionally complicated. While she has clarified that she played Mrs. Gump across several decades, from a young mother to an elderly woman, the experience quietly highlighted a painful reality for women in Hollywood. "You hit 40 and you're done," she once stated bluntly, noting that men get love stories until they drop dead. The role of Mrs. Gump, while iconic, was both a brilliant acting opportunity and a painful reminder of the industry's limitations. The world saw a beloved character, but Field was privately processing the shrinking space the industry allowed her to occupy. Beyond the personal complexities, there was the professional challenge of creating a believable mother-son bond with an actor who was essentially her peer. Tom Hanks still affectionately calls her Mama, a testament to the convincing dynamic they forged on screen. But achieving that authenticity required Field to project a lifetime of love onto a man she had recently shared near romantic chemistry with. The pressure was immense, demanding a performance that was not only technically proficient in its aging process, but also deeply authentic. This added another layer to the private doubts she was already harboring about the film itself. The on-set atmosphere was further complicated by a clash of creative styles. On one hand, you had Robert Zemeckis, a director renowned for his meticulous, technically precise approach. As the visionary behind effects-heavy blockbusters like Who framed Roger Rabbit, Zemeckis was a master of controlling every element within the frame, a style that didn't leave much room for spontaneity. On the other hand, you had Sally Field, a deeply instinctual, emotionally driven actress. Having built her career on raw, vulnerable performances, her method was organic and character-focused. She needed to feel the moment, not just execute it. This created an undercurrent of tension. Field has admitted there were moments when the director's exacting vision didn't align with her interpretation. After numerous takes of a single glance, she would worry the performance was losing its freshness. This friction wasn't explosive, but it was persistent. Field later acknowledged that this creative tension ultimately pushed her and deepened her performance, forcing her to dig for a new level of truth. However, at the time, it was another source of pressure. The dynamic with her co-star Tom Hanks was also a study in contrasts. While their on-screen chemistry became the heart of the film, their approaches were vastly different. Hanks, as Field recalled, was like a sponge absorbing everything, staying loose on set and allowing Forrest's emotions to surface naturally. Field, by contrast, arrived with her scenes meticulously dissected and her character's emotional journey mapped out. Meanwhile, I had to work through every detail, she explained. That very friction, however, may have been part of the magic, as the interplay between Hanks's intuitive style and Field's carefully constructed emotional foundation created a dynamic that was utterly believable. After decades of the world loving the film, Sally Field's reflections, particularly in her candid memoir, In Pieces, have unveiled the full scope of her experience on Forrest Gump. What she has shared paints a picture not of regret, but of profound uncertainty and fear. Her deepest anxiety was that the film's unique blend of sentimentality, humor, and history would be fundamentally misunderstood. She worried its earnest tone would be rejected as schmaltz, and that the entire project would collapse under the weight of its own oddity. This fear wasn't unfounded. The film's narrative, which places a man with a low IQ at the center of American turmoil, was a radical departure from conventional storytelling. Its most iconic moments, Forrest teaching Elvis to dance, exposing the Watergate scandal, and meeting multiple presidents, were all enormous creative risks. Field, like many involved, couldn't be sure if these fantastical elements would land as charming or simply absurd. Behind her portrayal of the endlessly optimistic Mrs. Gump, Field was grappling with the very real possibility of failure. She has described the emotional weight of projecting a boundless sense of love and encouragement that stood in stark contrast to the professional uncertainty she felt. The character of Mrs. Gump is the film's philosophical center, but for the actress playing her, there was only the grueling work, the on-set tensions, and the gnawing doubt that this strange, beautiful film would ever find its way into people's hearts. And what's become clear over the years is that one of the most comforting performances in modern film history was built on a foundation of deep-seated anxiety and the terrifying belief that it might all be for nothing. When Forrest Gump was released on July 6, 1994, the reaction was immediate and overwhelming. It was not the flop Sally Field had feared. Instead, it became a cultural phenomenon. Audiences didn't just like the film, they embraced it with a passion that stunned Hollywood. The film's blend of heart and humor, which had been the source of so much anxiety, was precisely what resonated. As the box office numbers climbed, Field recalled her reaction with relieved astonishment. The film went on to dominate the Academy Awards, winning 6 Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Actor for Tom Hanks, and Best Director for Robert Zemeckis. Field herself earned a BAFTA nomination for her supporting role, but the true reward was witnessing the project she had harbored so many doubts about become one of the most beloved films of all time. In the years since, Field has come to see the film as a profound lesson in trust in the unpredictable nature of art. The experience taught her to embrace uncertainty and the value of collaboration, even when it involved creative friction. The film's success introduced her to a new generation and solidified her status as one of Hollywood's most versatile actresses. 30 years later, the legacy of Forrest Gump is undeniable. The park bench where Forrest told his story is preserved in the Savannah History Museum. In 2011, the film was inducted into the National Film Registry of the Library of Congress, cementing its status as a work of cultural and historical importance. For Sally Field, her honesty about the experience doesn't tarnish the legacy of Forrest Gump. It enriches it. It reveals the humanity behind the magic and the struggle behind the masterpiece, reminding us that even the most enduring works of art are often born from vulnerability and fear. The story behind Sally Field's performance in Forrest Gump is as layered and unpredictable as the film itself. For 3 decades, audiences saw the unshakable, loving mother who became the film's emotional heart. But now, thanks to her candid reflections over the years, we know the full story. We know about the private doubts that plagued her, the professional anxieties tied to her age, and the creative tensions that defined the set. This knowledge doesn't diminish the magic of Forrest Gump. Instead, it adds a new layer of appreciation for the artistry involved. It highlights the immense pressure Field was under and makes her understated, powerful performance all the more remarkable. Her ability to channel so much warmth while navigating such a complex and uncertain environment is a testament to her incredible skill and resilience. In a way, Sally Field's journey with Forrest Gump mirrors the film's central theme. Life, much like a movie production, truly is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. Despite her fears, she got a role that would help define a generation and a film that became an enduring part of our cultural heritage. Her honesty is a powerful reminder that behind every great story, there is often another equally compelling story of the struggle, doubt, and perseverance it took to bring it to life. If this story gave you a new perspective on a classic film, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more untold Hollywood stories. We want to hear from you in the comments below. What is your favorite Mrs. Gump moment? And does knowing the behind-the-scenes story change how you see her performance? Share this video with a fellow Forrest Gump fan. And until next time, remember that behind every big screen smile, there's often a hidden struggle that makes the final product even more extraordinary.